But yeah, yeah. So we were
Do
talking
do
about
you have
wildfire.
the Oh, so you only have four. Can you switch over to the Tiger Barb tank? It should say Tiger Barb. Is that
Uh,
showing up?
I only have four guests.
Yeah, but only
No,
three are.
the four that are up. Those are the only ones that I have.
You don't see Tiger Barb. All right, let me go
No,
on.
no. If you want to throw that on there. All right, guys. We have a very special guest today, and we're gonna let everybody roll in here. Oop, we got one more up there at that stage. Okay, sweet. What's up, Henry? How you
That was
doing?
it.
How you doing, guys? So you're gonna have to excuse my audio. I'm not sure if you guys are hearing all the noise in the back. I'm having some work done on my bathroom. Got a little bit of a clog going on in the shower there. Let me know if you guys are hearing all that, and I'll try to just move to my back room or something. I don't know, or outside. But what's up, guys? So we have a friend in the building today. It's Frugal Fishkeeping. Very, very awesome fish keeper out in the northern Illinois area. Um, I am lately going on like I guess a diatribe or a journey of just finding local fish keepers to spotlight here, and there's a few that I want to bring up, and our friend here just reached out to me and basically was like, hey, I got some tanks to show off. Let's do a live together, and I was absolutely amazed to find out what his fish room was actually like. You don't see fish rooms like this every day. This is definitely one of those episodes that I don't know. You guys are going to be excited for. If anybody got a chance, a um, I had actually shared a fish room tour of his fish room that was shot by the Cichlid Bros. And if you guys got a chance to check that out, loud and clear. All right, sweet, good, good, good. Yeah, dude, the iPhones are pretty crazy when it comes to. Is that making me freeze up at all? I got to turn on my do not disturb here. Hold on. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to turn it on from here.
Now we lost the host.
I'm back. Sorry. Um, I was gonna try to turn on my do not disturb. Oh, Branton's in the chat there. Yeah, he was just texting me, and I was like, oh man, I forgot to I forgot to tell him I'm going live there. So what's
All
up,
right.
guys? What's up? But where was I? I just got really distracted. My brain is all over the place right now. This is like the worst timing of events going on all around me. So well, how about you introduce yourself, Jim?
Sure. So I've been a hobbyist ever since probably 10 years old when I had my first 10-gallon tank, and I kind of got hooked. And I kind of had this vision of building out a whole fish room in my basement when I was probably about 10. And it's kind of been in the back of my mind. And then a couple of years ago, found myself during the pandemic, uh, had some time on my hands and an empty basement. So I decided to fulfill my dream. I had some 2x4s lying around. And I thought, well, I've got everything I need. And it started from there. So it kind of evolved. Originally, the fish room was, and I should say, I've been keeping planted tanks for probably about the last, I don't know, 25, 30 years, actually more than 30 years. So um, when it wasn't it wasn't really in like it is right now. But I happened to be in an aquarium store and saw a beautifully planted tank, and I thought, wow, I had no idea that was possible. And I started from there. It's been a learning experience all the way through. But I decided at this point, my original plan for this fish room was going to be just grow out tanks to propagate plants and to breed fish. Well, it turned out that each of the tanks turned out to be a an aquascape planted aquarium, and so they're all mini display tanks. Then I had to take the tanks that I had set up or reserved for just hospital tanks, breeding tanks, and so on, and those became the grow out tanks for storing plants. So now I have no spare tanks, but I have an entire wall full of aquariums. And I decided when I was building that rack system, I scoured YouTube and other sources for information on how to build a rack, how to build a central filtration system, how to do plumbing. And I did find a lot of bits and pieces of information, but I ended up kind of inventing a lot of it myself and adapting it. And I really hadn't seen a rack, especially with a central filtration system or a sump for planet tanks. So I kind of adapted as I went. And then I got to a point where I realized, because I don't see any other channels or a lot of information showing how to do this, I thought, well, I would document what I've done, and present it. So because I'm a DIY person, kind of do everything myself. Well, I decided I was going to learn how to make YouTube videos. So I educated myself on making videos. And that was a whole sideline in itself. And came up with a whole plan for really having enough content to go, at least that was my goal, is to have enough content on the channel to go a year. And my goal was to have one video a week, relatively short. So what I outlined and what I'm going to be starting to work on now is a whole series from beginning to end on building out a fish room.
Very nice, very nice.
And
I think one thing I want to point out about you is when you hear DIY, a lot of the times you're like, it's going to be some janky kind of build or some kind of something that's like duct tape and what's a shoestring together or whatever.
right.
This guy does not build DIY stuff like that. His DIY builds are
Yeah.
much different than anything that you would expect. I mean, it's like professional grade, like real equipment stuff. It's
Thank
cool.
you. Yeah. I've done a lot of, plumbing projects on my own house. So I had the tools, the materials, and the experience to do it. So I built it as if I was, maybe plumbing a house and not just building a rack. Same thing with the stand and everything. I just, I had the time, but I wanted to do it right. And that's the kind of thing that I'm going to be documenting, just how I did it. At the time that I was building it, I really hadn't planned on making videos, so I didn't really shoot any live videos at the time, but I did take plenty of pictures. So a lot of it will probably be, some slideshows with voiceover, but I think there's going to be enough information there to at least see how it's done, and then go on from there on, not just how to build a fish room, but how to maintain it. And that's something that I struggle with every day. And I think one of the things I've learned is to keep learning, because if something goes wrong, well, find out why it went wrong and how to prevent it from fix it, and how to prevent it from going wrong again. So you can only anticipate so much. And then you have to kind of adapt as you go.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that as well with the fish room builds. And just like you can only plan for so much until you start getting into practice, and then you're like, okay, well, this did not go nearly the way I thought it was going to go, or this way actually ended up being way easier, which I thought was going to be way harder. Just because of like, I don't know, some weird thing you never even thought of, or something that actually bothers you that you didn't think would bother you.
Right. And something else I'll point out too.
Let me know if it gets loud, guys, because it's getting loud. So.
Getting loud at your place?
Yeah.
I don't hear
Um,
any background noise now.
no, all right, good
Uh,
stuff.
so one thing I think I shared this anecdote with you a couple days ago was, it something that I carefully thought out and planned a long time ago. Maybe for me, a long time ago was maybe 6 months. I forget why I did it, and I go back and I look. I said, "Oh, why did I do that? This wasn't right." I undo it, I redo it, and then I realize there was a reason I did it that way, even though I didn't remember that. So, uh, lesson learned is kind of trust your, I guess, kind of trust your judgment, and probably document what you've done, so you remember why you did it. And even something I mentioned too is something as simple as, like I'm gonna clean out this closet or cupboard. I'm gonna organize everything so that I'll be able to find it. And then when I go to find something, I can't find it because it's so well organized. It's not where I thought it was going to be. So some things I changed because I realized I didn't do it right in the first place, or I could do a little bit better. And some times I do it, undo it, and redo it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you just mentioned that, dude. That was actually, like I told you, I was like having an issue setting up the project that I started right before the live, and I just cleaned out all the junk in my fish room, threw out a bunch of stuff, and I had a Wi-Fi switch, and I put it somewhere, and I'm like, I know I have it, and I'm like, I wouldn't put it like there's only so many spots I would put it because it's a Wi-Fi switch, it's like kind of more delicate. You don't want it to get dirty, so I'm like, I would put
All
it
right.
somewhere safe. And I was just tearing everything up. I'm like, I have one. I need it. Oh my god! Finally found it. And now it's all set up. But it's just, yeah, it's funny. It's like you set something,
It's the story of
you
my
do
life.
something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same thing about throwing things away. So I keep things and keep things. I'm going to need it. I'm going to need it. And then I decide, all right, I haven't used it in a year. I'm going to throw it away. Well, the next week is when I need it
Dude.
after
Oh.
throwing away.
Oh man, that is the worst. Yeah. I think we probably all experienced that.
So one of and of course I came up with frugal fish keeping just because I'm kind of branding my channel, my business, and my identity here as frugal fish keeping. First of all, because no one else had it, so I was able to register the domain for frugal fish keeping. It's just, I mean, there's frugal other things, and there's fish keeping other things, but not together. So, and then and I had to think, well, what does that mean? So I'm putting together for my first introductory video on what is frugal fish keeping, and I kind of came up with 5 principles of frugal fish keeping. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. But one of those things is, reuse what you have. So I save everything. I think, all right, one of these days I'm going to use it. And then a lot of times I am able to use. I'm glad that I saved the things that I did,
So
just because.
do you have a specific item that you're guilty that of saving no matter what? Like my thing is containers. Like I
Yeah,
have
that was
so
exactly what I was going
many
to say.
dollar store
Yeah,
containers. Or
I've
like little
got totes,
baskets
containers.
stuff, like for breeding baskets and different stuff. I've tried to, like, that's my thing. I have too many containers.
Exactly. And in some cases I've ended up buying empty containers for any kind of number of things, but I've keep empty pill bottles, uh, spice or herb shaker bottles or whatever. I think this is going to be perfect. And one that I get. Oh, we lost you again. Well, either we lost Kyle or I'm offline. Where'd you
Hey,
go?
sorry, I just got a phone call. Yeah, can you just
Okay.
text them just to make sure
All
everything's
right.
okay?
I never know. It could have been me that got
Yeah,
dropped
I
off.
lost.
Yeah. One of the type of containers that I find pretty useful if you buy. Are you still there? Yeah.
God, dude, this is just okay. Do not disturb. Do not disturb on. I have You guys got me?
You there?
Yep, I'm back.
All right. All
I
right.
am all off my game today, guys. I'm so sorry. But yeah, but if you lose me again, I just turned on my do not disturb. My dad gave me a call, and
Okay. All right.
he recently got some eye surgery, and I just need to make sure he's okay. So I turned my do not disturb on, got my girlfriend texting him to make sure everything's all good, and then I lost audio and I couldn't hear you, so then I had to leave and then come back, and then it worked
I
again.
wasn't saying anything
Oh, so maybe that's what it
interesting.
was. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And in
Yes.
fact, I mean, talking about not getting rid of things, kept old cell phones, and then it occurred to me one day, I have extra cameras now that I don't have to use my main phone as a camera. So that's why I have all of these cameras set up in different locations, and it's come in handy when I'm shooting videos where I can get. I don't know if
Oh, we got some
you
lights now.
what's that?
We got lights now. I took them off because everything was kind of dark and I didn't want people
Ah,
to. Yeah.
and I've even forgotten what schedule I set up, but the fish know, the fish know, and so
Yeah.
you know what? If we're going to look at we could start with a barb tank here, and then we can
Oh,
go
sure.
around
All
the
right.
room. What I can do is, of course, now these two tanks, the lights automatically ramp up. They're built into the timer. The lights that are in the fish room aren't dimmable, and they are all automated. So what I do is to kind of simulate sunrise and sunset is I have the lights come on in the room about a
Uh-huh.
half an hour before the lights come on in the tank, just to give them some light, and then it's in reverse in the evening. They stay on for about a half hour later than the tanks. And what I'm going to do here is turn off this ring light, which is just some room lights here, which are getting some glare in there. We can talk through this one here.
All right.
Oh, and I tripped over the cable. I almost unplugged it. All right. Can we see it there? Yeah. So this was my original tank. I've had this since I don't want to give away my age. I've had this since 1990, and no, I'm proud of my age. And so this is an acrylic 55-gallon tank. Actually I have two acrylic tanks. One thing that's great about acrylic is that it's light, and I've moved this tank so many times I can't even tell you. And I can lift it up with one hand, which you couldn't do with a glass tank. And so this is my primary, display tank. It's not connected. It's self-contained. And if you can see on the top there, so I started growing pothos in all of my tanks, or
Very
growing out
nice.
of the tanks, rooted in there. And this one is, they've all. I actually have to cut those back. They're just taking over my house. Those, I don't know if you grow pothos, but I mean they'll start attaching to walls and finding crevices to roll. I mean they like have a mind of their own. I'll just tilt the camera up a little bit so you can see.
Yeah, you got that variegated pothos up there. It looks like.
Oh, yeah, very good pothos. And so I've got it grown out. Now, what I've done here for this, for the light, you can see it's propped up a little bit. I bought, shelf brackets, just at the home center, mounted them on the wall, and then laid the light over those. So first of all, that keeps it off the tank, and it also allows me to adjust the height if I need to, just by moving the brackets. And I did that with one of the other tanks as well. And then what I did was I took to try to get these pothos to grow away from the top of the tank, because what they were doing is growing over the tank and then shading the tank from light, so the plants weren't getting enough light. Kind of stretched them out, and I just wrapped them over the No, actually, what I did to suspend them, I took an old curtain rod and I put that over the bracket. I secured it with some tie straps, and then I ran the vines over that to suspend it. So there's another example. I kept that of not throwing things away. I kept that curtain rod, and I thought, well, I'm probably never going to use it again, but I'm not going to throw it away. I'll find some use for it. And sure enough, it fit perfectly on there. So
No, that's a
that's kind
great
of the
idea,
background
man.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm
Yeah,
also
I got some pothos growing out of my tanks too. I just made my first clip and separated between two tanks. It was terrifying. All right, hold on one second, guys. You could keep talking, Jim.
all right. So originally, when I set up the
Sorry.
aquariums, I was going to have each tank be a single species. Well, I had so many species that I ended up having to have at least two species per tank. This tank started out as strictly tiger barbs, and then I started adding other kind of barbs to it. So it's a barb community tank. They all get along really well. The only other fish that I have in there are red-tailed sharks and some rainbow sharks. And one thing about those, I've never seen them, but once in a while they'll show up. So I know they're in there. And these tanks, these plants were really the basis of the rest of my plants. So everything I've done is propagating plants from cuttings. I've bought very few plants unless I'm starting with a new species that I want to start propagating. Everything has been just from cuttings and from runners that I've cut out and moved into the other tanks.
What is
So
that off to the back and the left? The big uh
yeah,
darker bush.
all
Is that
right,
moss or is that what are we looking at? Yeah.
all right, and that is going to be a topic of another video series on pros and cons. I'm doing a whole series of pros and cons. Uh, for example, and maybe some controversial topics about whether to keep a cover on the tank or uncovered. Those kind of topics. So one of the topics I have is going to be hardscape, good or bad. One thing I've noticed, and I'm leading up to what this is. I found that any hardscape I put in the tank over time will either get covered or hidden with plants, and you'll never see it again. This is a big piece of wood that is covered with Java fern, but
oh.
you can't even see the wood at all. Now it makes an interesting piece, but something it just occurred to me is like, why do I even have wood or rocks in my tanks if you can't see them anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I've gone back and forth with hardscape with as far as like I like wood, but rocks is my thing. They always seem to be like just a magnet for depending on what it is, hair algae. I have a lot of issues with hair algae. A lot of
Yes, I
extra
do too.
minerals. Yeah, a lot of extra minerals in the water. I think
Yes.
that leads to that kind of thing. Hardscape, is that the stuff that blocks perfectly good and Stephen brought up another good point too. And there's a few questions that we got to get back to. But Stephen brought up a good point. It's like hardscape, is that the stuff that blocks perfectly good plant space? And it's like, yeah, actually, if you have a bunch of rocks, like, wouldn't you rather just like, I don't know, throw more plants to be able to grow more of them? You know, it's always my argument with myself.
And I guess I would have to say maybe the only exception to that would be an Iwagumi type aquascape, where that's the focus of the tank is the rock and the wood, and
Yeah.
the plants are minimal. They're mostly carpet plants. So, but it's there, and that's what that is. There's some algae on it, but that thing just took off, just poking a few pieces of that of the Java moss in there, and then over time it filled in completely. Yeah.
All right.
And I can show. I'm going to be doing a series on how I built that one too, as well, and show the kind of filtration. I think I'm probably the only person that has this particular filter, this even type of filter. We'll see. And I'm not going to be doing any unboxing videos, but I might review the products that I've been using over time and tell you what I like about it, what I didn't like, and how I've adapted it to make it work. All right, so this is my paludarium. This is my other acrylic tank. This is a 29 high.
Yeah,
I think that's what that is, right?
yeah, that looks like about
Yeah,
that.
it's about
Hey,
29.
how you doing? Sorry.
So this one has. You're probably not going to see it that well right now, unless I get a little bit closer. So I have a pair of firebelly toads, and I have right now 4 bettas. There, one male and 3 females. And I've had this for a long time, but struggled about what type of fish to put in there because whatever fish I had in there disappeared. And I finally decided one day to put in bettas, and it's been a perfect environment for them. What you see underneath there, again, this goes along with my DIY, is these are cricket breeding or cricket holding tubs. So I'm breeding crickets because the frogs eat crickets, and these are 2 tanks. They're tubs where I'm keeping crickets and breeding them, and there's one for each different size as they grow. But the way I have this tank set up, I have a cork wall that I glued to the back, and then I put, there's some wood in there, but the foundation of this, the way this is filtered, and that's why you don't see the filter, is there is a under gravel filter at the bottom with gravel on top, and then there's a, on the lift tube, I have a power head. So the power head is recirculating the water, and then I have it just coming out at water level, kind of aimed down just to cut down on the flow to recirculate the water. And then there's a little heater in there just because it doesn't get warm enough for the plants. And this is another tank where I wanted to have an open top, but of course the problem is that the frogs would climb out, and I'm finding that the crickets are climbing out too. So I collect crickets all over my house that have escaped, and bring them back. But I enjoy this tank. And again, these are all pretty much either cuttings from other plants. Those are pothos growing in there, or I bought them, at the home center that are just potted house plants, small tropical house plants that take them out of the soil and put the roots in the water, and they've taken off. So that's my paludarium.
Dude, that is awesome. Very, very beautiful tank. I'm gonna. Hold on 1 second, guys. Oh man, this is just. Whew. I have to change location, guys. Hopefully, you don't lose me here.
I think we may have to get Jay Leno to take over as host.
Dude, this is just unreal. Today, it's like the worst combination of things to be happening all at once. Oh man, all right, but what's up, guys? We're gonna go on an adventure. Luckily, I got a pond.
Oh, we're gonna lose him. I can see that. We're gonna lose him.
All right, there we go. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. Oh man. All right. Well, what's next? What do you want to? Oh, well, actually, we had some questions. Let's go answer some questions
Sure.
here.
Yep.
One of them was, I know I saw this. How many fish tanks do you have?
I can answer that one. 23.
23 fish tanks, dude. That is
So how that breaks down, and I have a upstairs. I have a 125 gallon African cichlid tank, and next in size is the 55 gallon tiger barb, then the pallet 29 paludarium, and then on the rack I have 3 rows. So the top row are 6 20-gallon longs. The middle row are 4 40-gallon breeders, and the bottom row are, I've lost count now, I think 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 10 gallons.
nice, very nice.
And I've stopped there. I you know, you've heard of the multiple tank syndrome. So I've capped myself at 23.
You've reached
And
critical mass, huh?
yeah, and you know, and not just as far as space, but or resources, you know, water usage and electricity, but that's about all I can handle right now. I know that any more than that would just tip the balance.
Yeah, I've kind of reached my that point with my fish room too. I do plan on doing some rearranging, maybe adding like changing out for bigger tanks, but yeah. So let's see. There was another one here.
Sure.
How big was the barb tank? I think was the next question.
That's 55 gallon.
That was a 55.
Right.
All right. Yeah, that was from Lush and Salty, and he's another one of the Chicago
Yeah,
aquarists out here.
that's
And
right. Yeah.
yeah, he said he
And
loves
and
the
I'm kind
pothos.
of planning a what's that?
He said he loves the pothos, the rod, and then he said I have the same light blocking issue.
Yeah, so I've had to cut those back and kind of train them to go along in a vine, and that kind of helped. Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little pond we got out here. We're not allowed to fish in it, which is probably great or better because we'd get a bunch of random people just trying to come back here. But let's see. Just grow plants at the top of the rocks. Problem solved. Oh my god. All right. So what's the next thing? What do you want to show us next here?
Well, let's go into the fish room now. I think at 11 is when the yeah, there we are. So yeah, the 40 gallons come on at 11, and the 20s come on at 11:30. So what I'm going to do is go in there. I'm going to switch over to Bluetooth for audio, and I will turn off the lights in the room so we can get a better look and we can talk. We'll see from there.
All right.
I'm going to leave this mic on at the computer just to in case we lose you, and I need to come back, so I'll be there, right
Okay.
in there.
Hey, Coro is doing his thing, reminding all of y'all to smash that like button. So you could tickle the like button, you could caress the like button, you could smack the like button, whatever it takes to get it done, guys.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes I can.
I can hear you. All right, great. All right,
And then
so I have this. Yeah.
oh sorry, you can keep going. I was trying to fill the dead space, but you keep going.
Oh no, I'm good. All right. So let me go down here. So I will swing around here. Now, of course, you can't see all the tanks yet, but so these are the 40 gallons here in this row.
Looking nice, man. So
And
many plants.
and one thing I'll point out too is as for another example of kind of adapting as we go that I didn't plan for when I first set this up. So what I have covering over the gaps are sheets of what was the material? It's black material for marine or for boat seats. So it's waterproof and it's pretty opaque. No light gets through. And I have a picture that I can post showing the difference before and after. There was a lot of glare from these pretty bright grow lights on here. Right now, You can't see them at all. But I think one of the things I'm planning to do that I originally thought of was to have just plywood or thin wood with hinges over those to cover that up. So that'll be another project. But the flaps have worked pretty well. They're easy to just lift up when I need to get access to the tanks.
Did you
And then I'll show
say
you here.
you're using grow lights?
Yeah, these are all grow. So these are I the lights that are mounted in here are I bought as grow lights, but there's different spectrums that are available. They're LED strip lights, um, and you can get them in, I think a pinkish hue, or I forgot what the other color was. I think three different shades, but this one is white color balance. So um, these are the these lights string together, end to end. So I don't have one light over each tank, but I have a whole uh, strip of lights that are all connected to one timer. So each row is on its own timer, and each row, the lights are connected together. So this allows me to control each one separately, each row. Is that
So,
what you were asking?
yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was mainly curious because I've always wondered this, is if people have any luck with the actual, like, the regular plant grow lights, because they are quite a bit cheaper. I mean, I've definitely done the whatchamacallit, like the shop lights and stuff like that, and I've had mixed results, like good and bad, I guess. But uh, I don't know. That's all I was wondering, was just if you're
Yeah,
using actual grow lights, you've had luck with them.
yeah, but you just have to be careful about what color. What's the word I'm looking for? Not what's that?
Oh, no, no, sorry, that was just me moving.
The
Sorry,
the the color temperature. That's the word I'm looking for. The color temperature. So these are, the grow lights can come in different color temperatures. So these aren't your typical purple grow lights. These have our daylight grow lights, and I've had really good luck with them. Been very reliable, and very economical to do in a large scale like this. It would be prohibitive if I had. What, were you going to drive away now? Are you going
dude, I'm just
shopping?
trying to find a spot to sit down and not be surrounded by so much noise and confusion. Just to clear up, if anyone missed, my bathroom is getting cleared out right now because my shower is clogged, and you guys, I might be live streaming my demise right now. We'll see. So,
You are in my demise, but this is my first and probably last live stream now. All right.
uh,
So while the top row's off, I'm gonna swing down to the bottom row, and I'll tell you what's down here. It's kind of a mix. This is
yeah,
my like an uh, industrial row here. So the first two on the left are brine shrimp tanks. So I hatch them in there and grow them up to adult size. But believe it or not, I don't know if you know this, but brine shrimp um, can breed. They can be live bearers. They give birth to live shrimp when they're adults, or they will lay eggs. And so I've had these spawn in here. All of a sudden, I have a whole tank full of baby brine shrimp without even hatching the eggs. So these are what I breed for food as a supplement. Um,
I thought that was super interesting when I watched the Cichlid Bros walkthrough of you and of your fish room. Hatching them out in a 10 gallon is just different. You never see anybody. I mean, at least I don't see anybody do that. Maybe it's more common than I imagined. But
no, I don't think it is, and because I didn't find a lot of videos on it. Oh, okay. You know what? It's it's morning upstairs here. So,
oh,
but let me
nice.
go down here and tell you here. So, originally I was hatching them in just a off the shelf brine shrimp hatchery, and then transferring them to the tank. And I found I didn't have a great success rate because they had to adapt to the different water. And I found just throwing the eggs in there overnight, they'll hatch, and they'll grow to be adults. So that turned out to be kind of an unexpected advantage there. Let me just close the door here one sec,
For sure. No worries,
because
man.
the other. All right. So then on uh, the next tank over, these are all my failed breeding experiments. So the next tank over are mystery snails. I've had them, lay eggs. I've had the eggs hatch, but the babies didn't survive. And then eventually all of the adults died off. So I've replaced them. I'm going through another cycle again to see if I can get those to breed. The next one over are albino cory cats. They're thriving in there. They laid eggs once. The eggs were gone the next day. I guess I haven't put in enough effort to focus on breeding. I'm kind of just letting them breed on their own, but I don't want to move them out of this tank. This is their home right now, so it's they're happy in there. Then the next 6 tanks are my grow out tanks. So this is where I'm building an inventory. I don't know if I mentioned though, but I'm going to be starting up a business selling them online, and I'm building out a website now. So once the website is up, then I'll be able to start selling them. But right now, these are holding tanks and propagation tanks for all of the plants that I have on hand that I'm going to be selling. And I'll go into some detail on how I built these out as well, and built them out, and how I manage the plants in there. Were there any
Very nice.
questions on the
Did
on the bottom row before we go?
did you you said grow, is it just plant grow out, or is it also fish?
No, no, these are just plants.
Just
Just
plant grow out.
plants.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I'll go into more detail on that at another time. But they're holding tanks, but then because they're growing in there, I'm kind of propagating from there as well. So um, it's basically my inventory, my stock for selling plants to be able to pull them out. Um,
Gotcha.
all right. So on the top row, this is a breeding experiment that went a little bit better. Top row on the left are cherry shrimp, and it's a shrimp only tank, and they're really thriving in there. One thing I'll tell you about that is uh, I was feeding them, and I've tried. I don't know if you've ever tried petri dishes uh, and a feeding tube where it all just collects in a dish and they eat out of there. That worked fine.
Oh,
Uh,
gotcha.
but I was getting overrun by snails, and no matter snails, once they're in there, they're in there for life. Um, but I've noticed that the shrimp didn't care if I fed them or not. They might eat the food, they may not. So the strategy I'm trying right now to get rid of the snails is to just not feed the shrimp. And there's plenty of algae in there. There's plenty of food matter in there for them to thrive on. Without the snails, and I'm noticing I don't see that many snails anymore. So that might work. More to
Yeah,
come. And I bought a lot of snail food too. I mean shrimp food.
I've definitely noticed with shrimp colonies, you got to be careful with the overfeeding. It can lead to like, like planaria outbreaks or hydra outbreaks because they're slower eaters and they do a lot of like biofilm grazing and all that stuff, algae
Exactly.
grazing. Yeah, yeah. So they're
So
prone to.
I'll tell you
Nope.
another story about this too. So originally I thought, all right, no, you don't want to put in if you want the shrimp to breed, don't put any fish in there. They'll eat the babies. They might eat the shrimp. Okay, shrimp only. Originally I did have fish in there, and I was managed to net them out and move them to other tanks. Well, without me even trying, they managed to get into the other tanks. I don't know how. I may have put a few in there, but they're now breeding in all of the other tanks, and there's enough hiding places. They're not getting eaten. So I probably didn't need to have a shrimp only tank, but uh, at least it's easier to get a hold of them if I was going to sell them, because that's all that's in there. But I was amazed to find not only did they get into the other tanks, and I think might have been through the filtration, but also that they're breeding in there, and they're all populated.
Yeah, when I'm gonna stack like breeding shrimp and fish, I've been lately going for like the rock piles kind of thing, so they can create a bunch of homes, or like something just super densely, like I guess densely planted too. Like I've definitely noticed. I didn't even realize one of my guppy tanks had a whole colony of red shrimp in there, and I was like, how did this happen? You know, like I would assume the guppies would have eaten them like crazy, but yeah,
Exactly.
they do the same stuff out in the wild if you think about it, right? I mean, it's not like
Sure.
nothing's protecting them from fish in the wild. They just got to kind of figure it out. So I think they make it happen if they can, you know?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. All right. Actually, I didn't realize I could zoom in here. So, all right. Um,
So do you
so
have a
all
favorite
the
plant to
whole,
work with?
um, yeah, the Amazon sword is just propagating like crazy. I have to keep cutting back the shoots, and they do get quite large. But they're probably the easiest and the least likely to have algae on here. I mean, I'll tell you a problem I have, and you mentioned that you have a lot of algae because there's a high mineral content. There's a high mineral content in my water supply too, and I think that's the cause of a lot of the algae. But any fine-leaved plant, any carpeting plant, anything like Java moss, it didn't make it because it just gets covered with algae and it's just impossible to remove it. So more of the broadleaf plants are easier to deal with just to remove algae, and they're less likely to grow algae. Um, but this so that the whole top row here is they're all planted. There's rocks, wood in some of them, and I don't even remember what fish are in each of these tanks.
I was just gonna ask. I'm like, we're talking all about the plants, but there's some fish swimming around there too, right?
There's fish in there, yeah. So I'll generalize by saying most of the tanks are tetras, uh, and some danios, and are we up here? Oh,
Oh, you
what
want me to put?
happened to the?
Oh, I can put you back up.
Am I?
Since you weren't there, I removed you. But yeah, no, you're good. Yeah.
Oh, um, yeah. Let's see. So tetras, uh, danios, and rasboras are primarily, other than some scavenger fish or some autocinclus, some cories. That's pretty much what's in all the top row tanks.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, I'm recently. Did you say Danios? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
danios. Yeah,
Which
danios, rasboras, and tetras, and some.
uh,
Actually, I have in this one are uh, white clouds, which I think even though they're white cloud mountain minnows, I think they're um, in the rasbora family. I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm not sure
I
about
could
that
be
either, to be
wrong on
honest.
that.
I never
I don't know.
I got White Cloud Mountain minnows and I gave it a shot trying to breed them. Did a couple different setups and I could never make that happen. Never saw any babies.
I can't. I have not been able to breed fish, but then I've watched videos on how to breed them, and I'm not going scuba diving in there and collecting eggs. So I'm if they breed, great. If not, that's fine. My main focus is plants, and the fish are just to keep the plants company. I think
I
just to make
gotcha.
some interest. So I guess the main focal point of my setup here on the rack system is the sump. So all of
Yes.
the tanks, well, the tanks in the top row and the middle row are all on a central filtration system. The bottom row are all sponge filters that are off of one air pump uh, with individual heaters. But the two top ones are on a sump system. So all of the tanks are drilled. with an overflow drain. They all drain back into the sump, and they get pumped back in at the there's an output at the just above the or just below the surface for the return. There so this is all a homemade, as you can see, a homemade sump just with just storage totes. And I think it's a 30-gallon storage tote with a smaller one. I can't remember what size it is. That's resting inside of it. If you can see over to the right, and inside it's covered, but inside there are 3 layers of sponge or foam, increasing density, and then 2 big bags of ordinary landscaping. No, lava rock. I was going to say coral, not lava rock, in there as the main breeding surface area for bacteria. And then inside the main sump, I have 2 large. I think they're 400-watt or 500-watt heaters to heat the water, and then on the now I know that you said that you're more low tech and you're not using CO2, but to do the CO2, and you can't really see it from this angle, and I think, but
Oh, sorry.
you're still there, right? You can still see me, right?
Yeah, I just finished
All
up
right.
with the maintenance guy, and they are. I don't think I'm getting removed from my apartment, so I was really worried about that, guys. Oh my god. All
All
right,
right. So let
sorry.
me focus down here on this. So uh, I think most sumps have an internal filter. Uh-oh, I have a dead angelfish. Oh well,
Angelfish
that's
are one
part
of
of
the
my
most
morning.
brutal, one of the most brutal fish to see like that too, man. I hate that. Uh,
Uh, he was kind of gasping yesterday. It might have been old age. I don't know. I part of my morning routine is checking for dead fish. Sad to say, but when you have a large number of fish, the chances go up. But it's still disappointing. But okay, so down here is what I was going to say is most sumps use an internal pump. I chose to do an external, and I'm going to be doing a video and that's in my pros and cons series on an internal versus external pump.
oh shit.
You did, yeah. Switch over.
Yeah, I'm
You
sorry,
want to go
man.
back to the you
Yeah.
want to go back to the fish rooms?
Oh, Jesus Christ. There we go.
All right, there we go. All right. This pump here is my transfer pump, and that's how I do water changes. So that's just sitting here off to the side. So this pump is back here. And then to do the CO2, the way the plumbing is set up is I don't know if you can see this here. So when it pumps the water back in, it goes into a T. So to the left is the return to the aquariums, the tanks. When it goes off to the right, that splits between my CO2 and a UV sterilizer. And then those circulate back into the sump. So what I'm doing is I'm enriching the water with CO2 back into the sump, and then also sterilizing the water in the sump and returning it. So they're not really in line with the return back to the tanks. They're kind of an extension of the sump. And again, I
Gotcha.
will be going into a lot of detail on how I built all of this and how I customized it and what I've learned from my mistakes, what I've changed, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, you said you actually have
So
an engineering background, correct?
yeah, I do. Yeah, so I guess I've cheated. I had some more experience on there too. So
Man, I
Here,
miss
we
it.
can go up. Just do a little quick up in here. I
Yeah, dude.
honestly
Let's.
forgot. I forgot what those are hatchetfish, but those are rasboras, I think. I forgot what those are. I hadn't had them before, but they're doing pretty well. So,
Very
oh,
nice.
and then look, and here's the shrimp. So they're just
Hey.
happily hanging out, and nope, nobody bothers them.
Oh, dude, they got food for days in a tank like that, man. Nice and seasoned.
I, uh, yeah, I think that's really the key right there. um, I will tell you this too. I originally I thought, all right, I'm going to have one species per tank, a whole tank full of each one, and it ended up being two, some tanks three. But I've mixed together species that don't necessarily go together, but they're the right size and temperament. So these are rummy nose and zebra danios, and then there's some pearl danios in here. But as you can see, they're about the same shape, size, and temperament, and they get along really well together. So
Yeah, I've been
that's
thinking
this
about
tank
getting
here.
rummy nose raspberries for a while. Those
Tetras,
are
the
tetras,
rummy
yeah.
nose
They're
tetra.
well,
They
actually
can
both of them,
be
but the
yeah.
tetras is what I meant to say. Yeah,
Yeah, these are my angelfish. I'd have to say that my angels fish are probably my favorite. They have the most
dude,
personality. They'll follow me along.
the barring on those is so distinct, man. Very, very dark. I love it. I miss
Well, one
angelfish,
thing,
man.
yeah, one thing is that fish will show their best colors in a planted aquarium. So that's one of the advantages
Oh,
of
nice.
having a densely planted tank. Yeah, they all show really well.
Where do you get your
Um,
angelfish from?
uh, honestly, wherever I happen to be,
I
I've
got you.
got them from local stores, the big box stores. One thing, one of my frugal tips is, at least for me, is uh, just don't buy expensive fish because eventually you're going to lose them. And I buy pretty much common fish that aren't aren't necessarily all that expensive, that are easy to come by, and I've done well with them. These are Colombian tetras. These are
Yeah,
beautiful
that's
fish. I hadn't seen those before.
they look like little piranhas, man. They just look mean.
They
I don't
do.
know. Yeah, like they look like they would.
Oh,
And
they're
I've
not
heard that,
mean.
right? They're not. I thought I've heard that they
No.
can be aggressive, or maybe I'm confusing them with a different tetra.
Well,
But those are
no, they
pretty,
may
man.
be. I just haven't experienced it myself with these. And here I have gold white clouds, or I think they're gold white clouds or albino. No, gold white clouds. Yeah. So um, they've done they've done well in here as well, even though they will tolerate colder water. The temperature in my tanks is about 76, and they seem to do fine. And and
Man, is
and
that a big
these are
old
just
chunk
some
of
other.
Anubius right at the end there? Sorry, I just noticed that as you left.
Ah, yeah,
Yeah, dude.
yeah.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
I don't know if it's one chunk or two, but or not two, but multiple. It just kind of took off.
I
But
love it.
again, this
That's
is
the
an
way you'd
example
imagine
of
it growing, like in the wild. Just very like bushy like that. And oh man, I love it.
yeah. And to be honest, I can't remember what's under there. I think it's wood. I don't, it might be rock. Again, that's an example. Now these rocks, for example, they're not covered because I've had to take them out and scrub them because they got covered with algae. But normally they'd be completely hidden. Like so for example, this wood just covered with algae, and you don't even know what's under there except by
Yeah.
its shape.
I
Now,
see
now
some
these are
cardinal plant in the back there. Is that dwarf sedge?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
These are yeah, I think yeah, these are dwarf stag, yeah, vegetarian, yeah, these are good.
And
And
a
now
red
this
flame
this is
sword.
a beautiful yeah, I can't get it to propagate, so
No,
it's
I
a one of
couldn't.
a kind.
I couldn't either, man. I got one from what's that Aquarium Adventures in Bolingbrook. I got one. It was
Yeah,
actually pretty decent price, and Dude, beautiful plant, but yeah, I couldn't get it to make babies, so I was like, "Up, you got to go."
I mean, oh, got to go. Well,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
it's
like, "Gotta
thriving in
go.
there,
If you don't make
but
babies, if you don't pay your rent, I can't keep you."
yeah, that's how I look at it. You know, pay for yourself.
Hmm.
If you're going to be in my tank, pay for yourself. And this is a whole forest of crypts.
Oh man,
I
very
think the
nice.
crypts have done better probably than any other plant.
I
Uh,
definitely notice in the Chicagoland area, Crips do really well in our water, just like around this
it's got
area.
to
Just
be.
seems it's the high mineralization. I think
Yeah.
you know there's some people that are much more. Ooh man, I love those barbs too. Um, or is that a barb? Or
Yeah. No,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
those
red,
are um, te
red tail penguin,
serpe tetras.
a
Serpe
serpent
tetras.
tetra. And someone's asking
Yeah.
about red tail penguin tetra.
There's penguin tetras. I don't know about a red tail one.
Do you have penguin tetras?
No, I've never
No.
seen.
Oh,
I usst to see them years ago, but I haven't seen them lately.
yeah. Red
But
was just
you can see all all of the tanks are purling. Like you see that stream of
yeah,
bubbles.
very nice.
That's not an aerator. That's a plant doing that. So
Love it. I
that
love
tells
this
me
dude.
now one of the things that you need for a CO2 to know if you have enough is a drop checker, right? Well, this thing, so a background on a drop checker, if it starts off blue and it gets more green and more yellow as it gets as the water gets more saturated with CO2, this thing will not turn color. But I know that there is good CO2 in here because these tanks are all, the plants are all purling and they're doing well. So it's going in. It's just to saturate these many tanks with one CO2 reactor is tough.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. I thought that was interesting. But I mean, it seems efficient. I just don't know. I know absolutely zero about CO2, so it's not really my wheelhouse to comment on. But I was curious about
Yeah.
how that worked. How much CO2 do you go through?
All right. So that's going to be on the downside. So this is a
Ah,
10 gallon. I mean, not 10 gallon, a 10-pound canister. It costs about $30 now to refill it. And what I do is I mark the date that I changed it out. I have a spare one so that as soon as it's empty, I can swap it out and then go get the other one filled. So I just changed it out. I'm getting about 6 weeks out of it. 6 weeks. Now, if you had one tank and one canister, the 55-gallon tank, uh, I have a 5-pound CO2 canister. I fill that up maybe 6 to 9 months.
yeah,
So
that's
it's just for this many tanks, it does take a lot to keep it up. And it's one of those things where um, could I get by without it? Probably, but I just don't want to take a chance. And I'm used, I've had it for so long. It's just part of the way I have it set up. But could I tell you for sure that it's made a difference? I couldn't tell you that. I haven't done enough experimentation on my own tanks, with or without. You know.
well. So Zen just brought up a good point too. She said I have to turn my CO2 up to the point I can barely count the bubbles to get a change in my drop checker in the 40 breeder now
Yeah.
that the plants are filling the tank. So it's like kind of like the plants are consuming the CO2 before it can even
So
like
fast.
yeah
All
saturate.
right.
Yeah.
So here. So let me show you the drop checker here. I'm sorry, not the drop checker. The bubble counter. All right. So I have this split. These are two I forgot not solenoids. Two I forgot what the word is with the manifolds. I think it's a manifold of two bubble counters. So the one on the left is going off to put CO2 in the six planet holding tanks. The one on the right is going into the sump. Now, if you can take a look at this, I don't know if it's focused. That is a steady stream of bubbles on the right. you can't even count them. You can barely even see the stream here. It's just not focusing. But yeah, that's it. It's not even a bubble counter. It's just like just to lets me see that CO2 is going through. I don't even try to measure it. It's about maximum.
Yeah.
And then to do water changes, I'll just go over here. Let me turn
Oh, hold
the
on.
light on over here. Yeah.
Stephen P said Stephen P is our local like plant professional. This well, I don't think he would want me to call him a professional, but I think he is probably the one of the most educated plant people that we have in the space around here. And he says, I can't imagine it not making a difference, assuming your KH is not through the roof, but judging from the plants, it's probably decent. So he's commenting on the fact that you have CO2. He says that it's got to be making a difference in your plants, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it is, and it's
And
one of those things where
do you have a KH level? Do you know like what your KH is running at, or your KH and GH?
well, yeah, interesting. And you're talking to me, right? Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
interesting you brought this up, and when we first started talking, I had just gone through the beginning of a major die off, and we were talking about monitoring your parameters, right?
Yep.
The pH, temperature, nitrate. Usually, when there's a die off, you think, oh, there's an ammonia spike, the nitrates are too high. I've got to go check it. So, and it was a couple fish a day I was losing all of a sudden. So, I'm making a long story here, but they're getting to a point. So, I immediately checked nitrates, ammonia. I checked chlorine. Maybe I'm not dechlorinating enough. What could it be? The two basic things of water parameters that you don't even I just took for granted because they were so stable is temperature and pH. I found that the temperature was starting to ramp up, and the pH was off the charts. So to try to find out what was causing the pH, I measure the hardness. The hardness is through the roof. So I had to address each one of those one at a time. I guess the lesson learned is here: don't take anything for granted just because it's fine forever, because one day it won't be. So I normally would keep the door closed to this room. It was building up too much heat. It wasn't getting enough circulation in the room, so the tanks were getting too high. It wasn't that the heater was running too long. The heater wasn't running. The room was getting too hot, and then the pH was up because the hardness was up. And what I was doing was and we were talking about this. So this is another one of my pros and cons here. Is I was bypassing the water softener on my house so that they would get enough mineral content and wouldn't allow any salt into the water. Well,
Yeah.
I think what was happening was it just wasn't flushing enough. Plus, I wasn't doing a large enough water change to dilute it. So it was just building and building and building until it was just way too high. So yeah, I do have a high mineral. So I've just started now, kind of as an experiment, but doing water changes with softened water.
So you started adding the softened water to your tanks?
Well, no, I'm replacing when I do a water change, it's with water that's run through the water softener.
I got
See,
you.
so I have yeah, I installed this. This is another one of my DIY projects. So I installed the water softener, and instead of putting in just a bypass valve, I put individual valves to do the bypass. So I would bypass it and think, oh, I'm doing fine, but I never really measured the parameters. So the pH would never drop because the hardness was too high. Because the CO2 will lower the acidity, or lower the pH, increase the acidity, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
But
the level. That's the part of
yeah,
fish keeping water chemistry. That's the part that I'm starting to kind of dip into a little bit more lately. Is learning that on a more specific level, rather than just kind of, dude. I mean, I've never even owned a master test kit. I have like I have water test strips that I can't even get a number off of because it maxes out all the parameters on all the
right.
uh, so it's just like we got some wild water out here in the Chicagoland area, and I just want to know, like, I want
And
to know more about it. Like what
Yeah,
exactly
and
makes it up?
that's where I am too, because I've kind of skimmed over it when I was ever reading any books or articles on it. It's like, yeah, it's
Well,
too scientific.
exactly.
But you know
It's not
what?
the easiest thing to make
Yeah,
yourself interested in.
no, but and here's another lesson learned too. Um, Water isn't always water. So here's what I mean by that. One week your tap water may have certain parameters. The next week it may be completely different, depending on the water supply and what the municipality is adding. How much chlorine they're adding to the water or chloramine.
I get
So
really
it, it's
careful about my
it's not
water
consistent.
changes. I get really careful about my water changes around the changing of the seasons. So in my area, when it goes to winter, I get real weird. I start doing less water changes, um, just because I know that a lot of municipalities change up the water chemistry depending on the temperature. So if it gets hotter, colder, they can do
Exactly.
different things with the water. Or sometimes they flush. Oh, they oh, that's weird. I did not even change that. It just switched up our layout by itself. That's weird. Um,
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they change, and
yeah,
you'll never know what it is at any given time. You might get a water report yearly, but you're not going to, on an average, but you're not going to know from week to week. So it
yeah.
really is kind of important to measure the parameters, even though it's boring. And actually, so what I'm going to I was looking around for some apps that I could use to record the readings, and then I can graph it and I can see trends, or see different seasons what the parameters are. So that's kind of on my list. It's tedious, but it's probably worth it in the long run. So let me show you here what I do for water changes. So one of
Hold
the
on
advantages of
one
yeah,
second. One
more
second.
questions?
Yeah, well, Zen
Yeah.
says that's the one reason I bought the Sarah Master test kit. You can double the water in the test tube to dial in exact numbers on top of not having to do an arm workout to shake them. So, with the Sarah Master test kit, what parameters does that test for? Because I thought that the API test kit would have tested for KH and GH because it's a master test kit, but apparently it doesn't,
No,
and that drives me
no.
crazy. So now I'm like, all right, well, I got to find a good master test kit. So if you guys have a suggestion for like what you would suggest for liquid testing or to get the most specific tests, um, let me know, guys. Just give me a shout out for Sarah's. I'll look into
And I'll tell
Sarah.
you what I use. So the core of my test is the API, and definitely liquid test kits on in general are more accurate than test strips. But test strips are certainly handy if you want to do something for a quick test, because obviously doing the liquid can take some time. But so the API has a core, but no, it doesn't have everything. I've added on additional test kits, one for hardness. I've added iron test kit, phosphate, and API doesn't make all of these different tests, so I've had to go with Frugal, I think, is what I've supplemented with. And just recently, to try to analyze whether I'm putting in too much magnesium in my fertilizing mix, is a calcium test kit. And so that's even more complicated because there isn't a test kit, at least for freshwater, for magnesium. So what you have to do is measure the general hardness and then subtract the calcium from the general hardness to approximate the magnesium level. So
Oh,
because for the most of what the general hardness consists of is calcium and magnesium. And what I supplement is magnesium in the fertilizer. But because I mix my own, I can eliminate it or vary it. So that's something else I'm starting to test for. But yeah, there's a lot of brands out there, and I think some are easier to work with, and maybe some are more accurate. One thing you need to be aware of, and this is a lesson I learned the hard way: check the expiration dates. They all expire, and when they expire, it's not to get you to buy new ones; it's because they're just no longer effective.
yeah.
And
All right, so we have a shout out for you that I think might help you. Salifert makes a MG test for freshwater.
oh, awesome! I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, so
I think I,
it's
I think I did see that, but I couldn't find it for sale anyway. I think it may only be in Europe, but
oh shit. Taki mushrooms. Jesus, I hate that. I was trying to screenshot that so we could keep that for you.
oh,
Uh
that's okay. I did find that, but I couldn't find them for sale here. So maybe
ah,
there's another source without importing them from Europe. But yeah, I think that was the only one. But um, so let me talk for a bit about the water changes. So what I do a water change, and again, this is one of the great advantages I find of a and there's plenty of disadvantages of a sump. So to do a water
oh,
change, all I do is pump the water out
nice.
of the sump and replace the water in
So
the sump.
that's the
I don't touch
Sarah.
the tanks at all.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We lost connection for a second there.
Ah, all right. I don't know if we
Uh
lost. So
yeah. Oh, there
let
we
me
go.
let me know if you can hear me.
Yeah, no, I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you
me?
now.
All right.
Also, I got to get
So,
that. I got to get that Sarah test kit because it apparently tests for pH, GH, KH, copper, iron, nitrate, nitrite, ammonia, and phosphates. That's a master test kit.
but 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 there are test kit. There are freshwater test kits, and there are saltwater. Some will work for both, and some won't. So make sure that you're getting a freshwater.
I gotcha.
And I think Sarah may make them for salt, but maybe not. Um, usually test kits that include like copper are for salt water. And I just bought a copper test kit, and I'll tell you why. Um, I just happened to be seeing an article saying
Thank you, Jeff.
you need to be aware. What?
Oh, sorry. Just saying thank you to
Yeah.
somebody real quick. Yeah.
So what I found was just saw an article just a couple days ago. Be careful of uh, water coming from copper pipes. Make sure that you test your copper level, not for copper that you've added through additives or medications, but just adding to the copper level leaching from your copper pipes. So never occurred to me to even do that. So and like I said, normally they're sold for salt water, but I haven't even tested it yet, but I just did get a copper test kit just to make sure that the pipes weren't adding to the copper level in the tanks. Although invertebrates are very sensitive to copper. So
You know, I just saw something
so far,
about copper and pools. All right, so I saw this thing about putting a like take water copper pipe and make a ring out of it and throw it in your pool filter and it'll kill all the algae in it. Have you heard anything about killing algae with copper? Because I don't think I've ever heard that
um,
in the aquarium world. Like I've heard of killing like invertebrates with copper, like because I know like
I
people
know
can buy used tanks and then they'll have issues with shrimp and sometimes they it was like a copper additive or whatever someone did to clear out a problem they had and then it ends up soaking into the silicone or whatever.
I think copper is a has antibacterial qualities or
Yeah.
disinfectant qualities. I'm not sure because it is used in medication. It's possible that it's used to kill off algae. I'm not sure. Um, but so invertebrates can be killed off by too much copper. But I haven't had a problem, so I'm guessing that I don't have any copper level. But it can't hurt to test it, periodically.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to
And
see,
then
because my pipes are copper. Yeah.
news on the Sarah test is in the manual. It has different instructions on some of the tests if you're using them on saltwater, but the main instructions are for freshwater. So that
Good
master
point.
test kit, yeah, that master test kit for the Sarah, it can do both. Apparently, you just have to add
Oh, good.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
right.
cool.
Depending on, okay. Some of them will say, they're for both, but some kits say only for salt water, not for fresh water, or only for fresh water, not salt water. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna
any other
Red brought this up, and I thought I was thinking about this too. Silver is the antibacterial one. Like I know that they
silver?
use.
Okay,
Yeah, they actually had um I think they made boxers for soldiers that were lined with silver because it was like antibacterial and stuff. to so had to wash them less, which is just gross. But random facts that are floating around in my head.
You know what? Yeah, some thoughts should be kept silent, but
No, not
hey, I
here,
want
man.
someone.
We keep it
All right, I'm
live.
going to show you here, just in case you haven't seen a tank of on, of my little brine shrimp here. And I'm not seeing it now, but some interesting behavior you'll see from these guys. A whole cluster of them will link their tails together around like this ball. I don't know what they're doing, but it's like a little forms like a star shape or like a ball. I'm gonna have to look it up. I mean, there's not much written up about the
We're
life
looking at the brine
of a
shrimp,
brine
right?
shrimp.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah, this
brine
is the
shrimp,
brine
right?
shrimp.
Yeah.
Yep,
I
yep.
gotta get glasses, man. But that is. So you said that they like clump up together?
So if you can see that in adults, you can see a tail.
Yeah. All right.
You can kind of make it out. Well, and they were doing that this yesterday, but I haven't seen it yet. A whole cluster of them will link their tails together, and around it looks like either I don't know either food or something, and they just kind of float around in a big cluster in a big sphere. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that
I've got
is.
to give you a little hint and not a hint, but a little secret here. I raise them for food. I've never feed them to my fish. I'm raising them just to have a tank of brine shrimp because they're
Dude,
so
it's
fascinating.
it is I think it's very interesting, man. I don't blame you at all. I am probably so what kind of what's the salinity? Like what do you do for it? Because I might try to copy you. I'm not
Oh boy. Well, and I have a
secret.
let me get up here. I have a refractometer. They're really not that
Person.
expensive, and it's that's the easiest, the most accurate way to measure the salinity. The salinity is pretty high, and just even a little 10-gallon like that, I think it's something like 6 cups of marine salt.
Ah, wow.
Ton of salt.
You
Can
what
barely even
salt do
get
you
it to
use?
dissolve. Um, it's not reef salt, just general salt. I forgot the name of it.
I
Ocean,
use Instant Ocean.
instant ocean. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I use too.
there's a reef specific one, and then this is just the basic one. I don't have to change it that often. I don't do water changes on it though, because you really can't suck the water out without sucking out the shrimp. So when they're done, I empty it out, I tear it down, and start over again.
I gotcha.
But it takes a lot of salt to maintain it. But um, so on a water change, so to do my water changes, I use this transfer pump. I hook up garden hoses, and I'm going to do a video on all the fittings and everything that I built for it. But I pump it out. I turn everything off, let all the water drain back in, and it'll fill it up. Pump everything out, and then turn around and pump the new water back in. So what I do is I condition the water for about 3 or 4 days. So I originally just started off with a, a, uh, you know a Rubbermaid tough. What are those called? You know, the big gray barrels, tough toad or something like that.
Yeah, I
And
know.
I ended
Yeah,
up
I know what you're
going.
talking about.
Now this was a little bit pricey. It's a barrel specifically for storing drinking water, um, but it does stay a lot cleaner. It's a lot more rigid, and it holds about 40 gallons. So what I do is I'll fill it up, and I have a large air stone on there, and I've tried a couple different ones, but this one is weighted, so it'll sit on the bottom. I run it constantly. It aerates it. Oh, and one thing I should mention too is, so this is something I recently started doing, is I will
Carbon
filter the water
blocks.
with a carbon. It just hooks up to the tap.
Yeah, I do the same.
It's not built in. I don't have to dechlorinate the water.
Yep, it's the simplest solution, and it's. I mean, I do worry because like I'm like, if I could get too comfortable and you do it, and then like you've used up all the carbon in it, and then it starts running out chlorine. I've worried about that.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but besides for that though, they last a while. I think it's like 3,000 gallons or something like that. But that sounds
yeah.
that sounds little. Like it's not. I think it's more than that. But yeah,
Um,
the flow
I'm
does
going to
slow
look
down
on
though a
here.
little bit. After the first like 2 or 3 uses, the flow is definitely not the same.
I think that's when you know it's time. That's what they said.
Yeah,
When it stops flowing, it's time.
yeah.
But I did do a test, and there is I do have chlorine test strips, and I highly recommend it because even if you're using dechlorinator, you want to know exactly how much you need at any given time. You know, I always test it before I put the water in, do a water change to make sure there isn't any chlorine at all. But I will tell you this, that when I first bought that carbon filter, I thought, oh, great, it's filtering out chlorine. Well, not 100%.
So
There's still some chlorine left. But by aerating this, within a day, all the chlorine's gone.
So we had questions about and then this is probably the last thing we're gonna be able to do, and I'm gonna have to take off because I got to start getting ready for work here. But we had questions about what brand carbon block are you using. I use Glacier Fresh. Oh, I use this one right here.
It looks just
This
like
one
mine. Now, this
I
is
get no
Camco
carbon.
Taste Pure.
Oh, oh,
This was
okay.
highly rated too, and
Chloramines are different. Gotcha.
yeah, I don't have chloramine in the water,
Yeah,
thankfully.
and
But
I don't have chloramine either, so that's definitely different. I think it's a lot harder to filter out chloramines. Actually, I don't know if you can filter out chloramines with the carbon block. I think that's one of the ones you have to
chloramine, right? Yeah, you
air
have to
out
break it down.
or break it. Oh, break it down. Well, yeah, you can air it out, but
Yeah,
it just takes like forever, right? Isn't that the thing? And then
chloramine. I think
yeah.
you have to break the bond. You have to break the chlorine ammonia bond.
Ah, gotcha.
You need the
So that
additive that will do that. Then you can remove the chlorine, but I don't think there's anything that removes. It just basically neutralizes. That's kind of a misnomer that they say. You know, uh, eliminates. You know, chlorine. It neutralizes it. It bonds to it, so it's no longer
active, right?
active in the water. But it doesn't eliminate it. It's not eliminated. Um, But what I do here is, you know, I aerate it for about 3 days. And by the way, so I'm taking out cold tap water, not water that's been sitting in a my water heater tank. And then the day that I'm going to be doing the water change, you know, so I keep it open so it gases out. Then I put the lid down and I plug in the heater. So I have a heater that I have floating in a on a my little life raft here on a just piece of styrofoam or insulation foam, so it, you know, it doesn't make contact with the plastic, and that takes about a good portion of the day before it'll heat up to the temperature that I want. So that way I'm getting, you know, clean tap water, and I'm able to adjust the temperature before I put it in. But something an experiment I'm doing recently is I'm going to be adding bags of peat moss in here to try to soften it. And I've also now don't cringe at this though, but I'm adding muriatic acid to the water to bring down that high pH. And I posted a link to a video all about adding muriatic acid from Watley Discus, who are, you know, big discus breeders in Miami, and he it's a really good video on how to use it. But it's safe to add to water that you're conditioning to add to the aquarium, not to put into the aquarium. But it worked so well that I went too low. Then I had to add baking soda to bring it back up, and then I added too much baking soda. So you can go back and forth. But at least it's in an isolated tank and not in an aquarium.
Yeah,
So more to follow on that.
I don't really mess with any chemicals to alter like the water chemistry. I mean, like, yeah, it eats up that KH immediately, and that makes sense. It's like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
muriatic acid. I remember using that for like pools to stabilize your
that's
pH.
what it's for.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
that's what it's for.
I think that that's pretty much what they sell in the like I when I first started with my aquariums or whatever. I think that that's what I on what the heck lost you.
Yeah, I'm over
What
here.
I yeah, there you go. Um, I used pH down from like Tetra, one of the companies that made pH down, and it was probably something similar. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was muriatic acid necessarily, but it was probably something similar that brought the pH down. And I don't know. After a while, I just realized that I'd rather just work with whatever could deal with the water temperatures or water parameters that I have,
Exactly.
to keep myself from dealing with those fluctuations. Because if you have stuff going like like all over the place, you never you got to be on it. Like you got to be on it, otherwise it'll cause some issues. But
Yeah, well, I would never add it to the water to the tank.
yeah, yeah, no,
Only to a
definitely not.
holding tank until it's stabilized.
Okay, so Stephen P says the muriatic acid works just fine if you know what you're doing. Eats up the KH immediately. Next time, use potassium bicarbonate if you need to bring up the KH again in a planted tank.
Potassium bicarbonate. Is that what he said?
Yep,
Oh, I see it.
I pulled it up on the screen there so you
What?
could see that.
So, okay, so I think baking soda is what? Sodium
Sodium bicarbonate.
bicarbonate. I'm not sure.
Or,
Is potassium bicarbonate known under a more common name, or is that a? I'm not sure what it is.
yeah,
I'll
and
have to look for
that's
it.
we'll if he gets that in comments, we'll get that, and then I got to take off here because I'm gonna be late for work if I don't leave.
Well, we won't want that.
Yeah,
Well, we'll have
exactly.
to have another session here, and
Yeah,
maybe
I'm building up Branton, I think is gonna be coming up here. Soon we're gonna do a test run this weekend to see if we can get him on live. Um and then everything okay? What? Oh, my clothes. Oh my God. I don't even have my work outfit here yet. Oh, Jesus Christ. But oh yeah, it's just known as potassium bicarbonate as far as I know. So there's no trade name or normal name.
okay, all right,
But yeah, I have Branton. I think is going to be coming up and joining me soon. It'll have to be a weekend stream though because he's working during the day when
right.
I'm not. And then I know Lush and Salty was talking about doing one. Stefan, so try to get him up here to do one. And then yeah, man, we can definitely do this in another like week or another maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks or whatever. Do a rotation if you want to come back up, and it'll be a little less hectic in the beginning.
Yeah,
I literally thought I was going to get kicked out of my apartment today, guys. uh, luckily, it actually I don't drain my water into that shower anymore. I had at first I would clean out some of my substrate and I would kind of do some of the draining into that, and that was no bueno. I don't do that anymore. I use a totally different system to do all that stuff. And I was just worried that I'd clog that drain at some point, but it was just a massive hairball. Like,
where did it come from though? Not you.
yeah, no, definitely not me. Maybe a little bit from the beard, but
The beard, that's what it
yeah,
was. Yeah.
exactly.
And
But
I mentioned to you, I haven't mentioned it to Stefan yet, but I'd like to have you guys and another YouTuber friend of mine too to come over and we'll do a live um, tour of the Fisherman in person.
yeah, no, I would love that, Jeff. I'm not that naughty. Come on, but but yeah, and also something I was talking to Brandon about, and since I got you here, I want to set up an event ish kind of thing. I'd like to go and bring a few people together that are in the Chicagoland area, and just go on a fish store tour.
Oh,
So
that would be
basically, it's kind of
great.
yeah, we shop hop. We just stop at a couple of things. I got to work out the logistics of how we can like make that happen. But me
Sure.
and Brandon were just talking about it right before the stream, and I don't know. I definitely want to make that happen because one of the local
That's a
clubs
great
here.
idea.
Yeah, one of the local clubs here. I think GCCA does one every now and then. And I saw it and I was like, man, that just sounds like so much fun. We could shoot some content, have just a good old hangout, and also maybe buy some fish. So
Really?
yeah. So all right.
That'd be great. All
Um
right. I
yeah,
appreciate the time.
yeah, no,
You
dude,
letting
I
me
had
come on.
much fun. Thank you for putting up with the struggle in the beginning there. And thank you guys for all of you guys stopping by. Um, yeah, keep in touch. We'll see you next time. All
All
right,
right.
much love, everyone.
Bye.
Woo!